They are just really hurting, as good news, at least, for Pete Alonso and Starling Marte. But both of these guys, of course, not in the lineup last night, and they get beat up pretty bad. You had the NBA Finals with the Boston Celtics winning, and we get ready for a Game 5 at the Garden tonight with the Rangers and the Lightning. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Can you feel it, G?
I can feel it in your loins.
Yes, I got it. The butterflies again, man.
Yes.
So I can't wait to see the boys on the ice at the Garden tonight. Can't wait for the fans to get behind them, and they're going to need everything. And when I say everything, all the passion, all the emotion from the fan base. And the boys got to step up, and we got to figure out whether or not we're going to get Ryan Strome and Philip Hedl back. If not, next man up. That's just the way it's got to be in the NHL. It's a Warriors mentality at this point in time, and it's blocking shots, it's getting in front of people, it's hitting people, it's protecting your home net, and it's a controlled rage, like I keep telling you, and not taking penalties, and hopefully you force some penalties, and hopefully Mika Zibanejad and his guys can get loose in this game finally, because the last couple games they haven't been able to get loose, and on 5-on-5, it's been tight. It's been really tight. Nobody's saying that it's not tight. But it's just been a little bit better for Tampa Bay the last two games. So now the Rangers have got to flip that, and I can't wait until tonight's game for that, hopefully, to happen. And I'm looking forward to what I would say would be a very spirited effort by the boys in blue. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, you and I have been talking about the Mets.
Yeah.
And obviously it is good news about Pete Alonso, yet last night was not good. They lost the series to San Diego. They have today off, which is good. They get to reset, get some of the arms back.
Finally an off day, yes,
right.
that Buck Showalter's been talking about.
Right, and then they'll obviously open their final West Coast series against the Angels. Now, here's the interesting thing. We were talking about this part of the schedule, and then at the same time we were talking about the Atlanta Braves. And the Atlanta Braves won again. The next 10 games for the Atlanta Braves are against crap teams. They got 4 against Pittsburgh. I think they play... They may also play, I think, the Washington Nationals in this little 10-game run that they're getting ready to go on.
Yeah.
And this is why you got to stay away from the 3-game or more losing streak. Whatever it takes, the Mets have got to take 2 out of 3 from the Angels. And the Angels haven't been playing well, even though, they fired their coach and everything else. They
lost again, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. They've been terrible. So... Yeah, the Mets got to go in there and they just got to put the pedal to the metal, and they got to come out of there with at least 2 wins because they'll come home and their schedule isn't that much easier. But the point being is that the Braves are now closing the gap and have closed the gap significantly, 4.5 games. So it is going to be interesting because when they do come home, then they have the Brewers, the Marlins, and the Astros. And those 9 games, the Marlins are always a pesky team.
Pesky bunch.
But the Brewers are a good team, and the Astros obviously are a very good team. So when you look at that and then you compare it to the Atlanta Braves, you don't want the Atlanta Braves being under 4 games behind you.
Yeah, you don't want striking distance. You don't want to get nervous at this point, especially when you had such a big lead. There was an overnight caller that actually made me feel better about this. He was able to put a positive spin on it where he goes, if you look back at the last 13 for both the Mets and the Braves, that they're both 9-4. And because of that, they didn't gain any ground over the last 13. If you look at it that way.
Yeah, at one point,
I said, that's not a bad way of looking at it. If we're going to be thinking differently and we're going to be thinking positively these days with the Mets and not thinking doom and gloom, and we're really trying to make a turn towards positivity, then that's a way to look at it.
That is a way to look at it.
But
the other way to look at it is take a look at the next 10 games and look at the potential, situational stuff going on for the Braves. So the Braves have won 7 in a row. Then they have Pittsburgh for 4. They have Washington for 3, and then they have the Cubs for 3. So that's 10 games against crappy teams. And then, their schedule gets a little tougher. They have San Francisco, the Dodgers. And then, again, it's the Phillies, the Cubs, St. Louis, Washington, the Mets, and then Washington again. So, and that's the first half of the schedule. It's going to be really interesting to see where these teams are at the end of the first half. The Mets have basically ran away with it to this point. And now it's getting a little bit tighter. And then, of course, Atlanta will have to take that trip, and Atlanta will have to play good teams again, and they'll have to face off against each other. But right now, as we sit here, this is what I was worried about. And that's why they have to take 2 out of 3 from the Angels when they start this series tomorrow.
Right, and of course, there's still a chance that you could salvage this road trip. If you win 2 out of 3, then you get that 500 on the 10-game road trip that we were talking about, the 5-5, and you head home and you say, okay, you survived it, especially with all the injuries. But yesterday, the news and waiting for the news with Marte and Alonso was just really nerve-wracking because you first found out that both of them were not in the lineup before you got the updates on the injury. So it was like, oh, man, so they're not in the lineup, and we haven't heard anything about it. I was thinking this is definitely they found some other broken bone in Pete's hand. And then if you would have added, IL for Marte, because he's got a grade 3 quad strain. IL for Pete Alonso because he's got a broken bone in his hand. Then you're like, oh, my God, the whole thing is falling apart. So you didn't get that yesterday. So, yes, there was a loss. That was critical. I would have rather had good news on those guys than win the game. And you're right. You have to. You cannot let the Angels get right against you.
Right.
They haven't gotten right against anybody in the last 4 series they've played, whatever it is. You cannot let them get right against you. You got to win the series and head home and then keep it rolling. And hopefully you get closer and closer to DeGrom and Scherzer coming back.
So my point is I don't want to see this spread between the Braves and the Mets get below 5 at any point in time in this first half.
That's your line of demarcation.
That's my line of demarcation because the Mets have really played well. Yeah. They really have. And now they're dealing with a little adversity. And you talk about waiting for injury news. That's us as Ranger fans.
Well, hockey in general is you don't know until the puck drops.
But what is really truly amazing is that it's we had the breaks in the previous series with guys getting injured, goalies and other players. Sidney Crosby, of course, playing against backup goalies. Now you're playing against a world-class team, and maybe 2 of your top centers are not going to be available. That's concerning. That is really concerning. Now, you do have depth players that can play center, but as you saw in Games 3 and Game 4, especially in the third period of Game 3 and the entire game in Game 4, there was just nothing being generated 5-on-5, and Gallant was trying to mix and match players and trying to unlock players and trying to create different matchups, and none of it worked. Now, John Cooper made some adjustments when they went back home to Tampa. And, this is a Hall of Fame coach making Hall of Fame adjustments with Hall of Fame players and putting players together, putting Steven Stamkos at center, all of those different things. Now this is where the coach has the impact. It's not just about the messaging in the locker room, but the coach actually legitimately has the impact area now. And we are at the end of the conference finals. And this is where it's ended before for Gerard Gallant. And this is where
we got to a cup final too.
Yeah, I know, but he did get a cup final with Vegas and lost. But again, these are the games where the coach does matter. The decisions that the coach makes. So he tried to make a decision and tried to mix and match lines. And of course, when you have Vetrano in a fight and you have Strome go out and then you have Hedl go out, and all of a sudden everything goes out the window and you're trying to mix and match different players. I can't imagine that they're going to separate Kreider and Zibanejad tonight. Those guys are going to be staying together with Vetrano. Keep that damn line together and at least have some semblance of consistency. But again, a lot of it's necessitated by injury and penalties. And what the Rangers have to do, in my mind, is they have to force the penalties, don't take the penalties. Because some of these penalties that they're taking have been stupid. And you got to play smarter than that. You got to play with an aggressive edge to your game. You got to block shots. You got to hit people. They got out hit in terms of the big hits over the last 2 games, and they've suffered from those hits. And now it's time for them to give a little bit of payback, even though you're playing against a bigger, stronger, and maybe a more seasoned team. But that's how you have to protect your home ice. And we've been talking about it all throughout the playoffs. Play well at home. All you have to do is win one on the road. That's not the case here. You play well at home, you're going to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.